Political films have always been the odd genre of filmmaking in India. The reason for that is quite simple. Not many political films have been made in India. Boy meets girl, singing around trees, or the life and times of gangsters and even female gangsters like Gangubai Kathiawadi relatively come easy to us. We are far more cagey, far more circumspect, much more afraid when we make political films. In the age of permissive social media, that might sound odd, but that is a reality. And considering the wide variety, color, and even aggressiveness of a political discourse in real life, this reluctance to make political, real films is even more odd. So, when a film like Kashmir Files comes along and all hell breaks loose, we need to understand why such films have become so polarizing. I will make use of examples of four iconic political films, that is Kashmir Files, Garam Hava, Kissa Kursi Ka, and Costa Gravas's Z to illustrate the point that the objective of political films is to generate debate and discussion which actually is hardly met, but rather they end up hardening entrenched positions even more. Most political films end up meeting the same fate as tired, politically biased news analysis programs on television, except for some honorable exceptions. In this episode, I will also discuss what makes some political films so hard to forget and others so easy to forget. Hi, and welcome all to the CAA show. CAA, as all of you know, is Conversations and Analysis, and my name is Juggi Bhasin. CAA is a show for all thinking folks hungry for good political and social content and comment. We urge you to join our show by pressing the big red subscriber button on your screen. Subscription is, of course, completely free. The point of making a political film is not to have a debate, the kind that occurs at the Oxford Students' Union, where opposing sides are invited to give presentations. A political film always carries a particular point of view. It could have an orientation of the right or the left or even some kind of centrism. But the objective of any political film is always a certain degree of radicalism. And keeping that in mind, all the criticism that is flung at Kashmir Files, therefore, is unjustified. Kashmir Files is not a film division's documentary that carries points of view from both sides of the aisle. It has no need to appear apologetic, that it showcases one point of view. And what is that point of view? It is quite simply the genocide of Kashmiri Pandits and their forced migration from the valley, which has been shown in stark, believable colors and storytelling. Obviously, in a situation like this, one side is the victim and the other side is the perpetrator. In the Kashmir Files, the jihadis who carry out the genocide are Kashmiri Muslims. That is a reality we cannot close our eyes to. The filmmaker is showcasing that awful reality, and to accuse him that he is creating a Hindu-Muslim divide is to miss the point of the filmmaker's endeavor. You do not make a film like this to play a folksy tribute to the so-called concept of Kashmirian and gloss over the stark reality of the state. If you're making a political film on Kashmir, then you have to bring out the fault lines that exist between communities, the savagery of the forces who once ethnic cleansed the valley, the absolutely pusillanimous role of the establishment, that is both the bureaucracy and the political leadership of that time. That is a minimum requirement of making a political film on Kashmir. And therefore, to accuse the filmmakers of being an adjunct of the Saffron Party or spearheading its agenda is to completely miss the point or to be too clever by half. And in that manner, much of the liberal media has been doing itself a disservice by either trashing Kashmir Files or ignoring it. Say, for instance, a channel like NDTV or a social media anchor like Barkha Dutt have chosen to completely ignore the film, therefore highlighting their bias and orientation to a particular brand of politics. If you need more empirical proof that in the past notable political films highlighted a particular point of view, then watch Z or Garam Hava. Both films were left oriented and highlighted the progressive point of view. To my mind, these films were even more poignant than the Kashmir Files, not because I agree with their political philosophy, but because of the superior quality of their filmmaking. Which brings us to the point that how do political films stand out? Political films stand out on the benchmark not of spouting of left or right rhetoric or showing bloodshed or street violence. They stand out on the benchmark how well they have captured the dilemma, the contradictions of human emotion, and the suffering that the politics of that era imposes upon the principal characters. To that end, in my dictionary at least, one of the greatest scenes in film history of all times is that scene when Balraj Saini, playing the role of Salim Mirza in Garam Hava, stands at the grave of his daughter, paying silent, tearful homage. The politics of communal polarization, the personal loss and suffering of individuals, the uncertainty of the times after partition was captured in that one poignant moment. It was secondary that the film was about a Muslim family's struggle to carve a place for themselves in post independent India. This is what a good political film does. Even in that amateurish Kissa Kursi Ka, a distraught Shabana Azmi is shown collecting dead rats and selling them to the state. The scene symbolically brought home the awful truth of the emergency era when Sanjay Gandhi's goon would round up Muslims near Turkman Gate and take them to be forcibly sterilized in camps. In Z, who can forget that scene when the resistance paints a giant Z to protest the ruling military junta in Greece? And look at the irony of that symbolism, so relevant in the present. The letter Z representing Greek graffiti, which means he lives and be my guide. And that same letter Z is today being used by the Russians to pulverize Ukraine. That is the job of the political film, to take us through situations of cruel irony, paint portraits of resilience and suffering, and highlight the human emotion in times of great change, violence, and distress. The job of the political film, as many are suggesting in case of the Kashmir Files, is not to balance community relations and show all points of view. Even if a sectarian point of view is showcased, well, it is enough. The job of the political film is done there. And so, on that note, I come to the end of this episode of the CAA show, and I hope you like this particular episode. If you like our show, do subscribe to us. And on this note, it's goodbye and cheers from my end.